Cheat and steal your way to the top. In 2015, Jagex both shocked and excited the RS3 player base when they revealed a new PvP-only game mode known as DarkScape. These new servers were designed to minimize safe gameplay and maximize risk. In DarkScape, players could attack each other nearly everywhere. This caught everyone off guard. There had been no news of DarkScape's development, and its release was a total surprise. In fact, Jagex's announcement noted that the new game mode was going live as early into development as possible, so that players could issue feedback that would completely drive its direction. Interestingly, JMods also opted to release a version of DarkScape that was based on an RS3 snapshot taken months prior. This meant that on Go Live Day, DarkScape servers were missing new content and patches that the main game had already received. Strange development choices aside, on release day, over 40,000 players flocked to the new PvP game mode to see what it was all about. Here's how it worked. The world map was divided into 3 categories: low, medium, and high risk. Each came with its own set of benefits and drawbacks. In low threat areas, level 831 guards with literally 1,000,000 hit points would patrol cities and roads, targeting any skulled players they came across. Additionally, players could only attack others if their target was within a certain combat range. The farther from a bank, the more leeway for attacking lower leveled players. Medium risk areas removed the combat level checks completely, giving total discretion to PKers to decide if they wanted to pounce on weaker prey. And DarkScape guards only wandered major towns, leaving pathways between areas as dangerous corridors for travelers. Finally, high-risk areas were similar to medium threat locations, but with the guards removed altogether. Areas such as the wilderness even had the mini-map disabled, increasing stress even further. Trading and banking were also restricted based on the safety level of the area. You see, DarkScape had 3 different grand exchanges, one for each threat zone. The higher the threat level, the less the tax you'd pay to use it. Similarly, banks were divided into 3 tabs. Low risk areas only granted access to tab 1, tab 2 was available in medium threat or higher, and full bank access was locked to high risk areas. It actually sounds like my Ultimate Iron Man experience would have paid off here. Jagex increased DarkScape's risk even more by taking it a step further and relocating many safe resources like trees or fishing spots to dangerous areas. They also changed teleports to be slower and interrupted by combat, meaning fighting back against PKers was often your best choice. DarkScape was free to play, but members got more bank space, 50% increased XP rates, and 1 extra item kept on death to entice subscribers. And if you were an OG player or coming from old school, you'd happily find that combat was legacy mode only, meaning RS3's abilities that were introduced during the evolution of combat were disabled. This helped players, new and old, jump straight into the action without a big learning curve or startup time. Even with its exciting new features, DarkScape had some major problems. Some quests were literally uncompletable. PKers could one item with overpowered untradeable weapons and risk nothing, and guards could be lured away from safe areas, meaning safe areas weren't so safe after all. On top of that, there was no disable left click option, meaning players would constantly attack others by mistake, then get blasted by the guards, often losing their money and valuables as a result. Jagex got to work with bug fixes, item stat changes, and reworking PvP mechanics to try to reduce griefing, but they could never seem to get it just right. Whether it was diary tasks unsuccessfully completing, or players discovering how overpowered Addy 2-hand swords were, yes, I'm actually serious, Jagex developers found themselves in way over their heads. So what did the JMods do to try to fix the situation? Nothing. In fact, the DarkScape subreddit, once bustling with Jagex replies, seemed to dry up overnight, and with issue after issue stacking up, the DarkScape player base slowly and steadily began to decline. Fast forward to February 29th, and DarkScape players woke up to an abrupt announcement. DarkScape was closing. Just like that. After months of radio silence, Jagex cited a lack of community support as the reason for the closure. In fact, they even revealed that after a month into the game mode, only 1.7% of players who logged into the game ever came back to play a second session. JMods also noted that the alternative would have been ramping up development and marketing tenfold, but in the end it was just too much of a financial risk. The hardcore base of DarkScape fans were devastated, and some even petitioned Jagex to consider keeping the game mode alive. Sadly, any lingering hopes were quashed when Jagex mentioned that maintaining just a single DarkScape server with no updates or development would require 10 times as many active players. This struck some as strange and led to speculation that Jagex wanted to repurpose the DarkScape servers to beta test RuneScape's new NXT client, though that was never officially confirmed. With its fate sealed, the JMods decided to have some fun and added in a slew of community events over the course of DarkScape's final month. This included bosses like Jad and God Wars generals randomly spawning into the overworld and attacking players, and even a zombie defense event where players had to stave off the undead from overtaking the game world. It was the first time in a long time that DarkScape got some love, and players had a blast. But on March 28th of 2016, the inevitable came. The final closing moments of DarkScape. Players gathered on the server to show support and protest the closure, but to no avail. RuneScape's ambitious PvP experiment had come to a close. Jagex did feel bad for the small but dedicated player base. As a sort of parting gift, players with over 10 hours logged in DarkScape were allowed to convert 50% of their experience to the main game. Additionally, these players were also given the DarkScape, a RuneScape 3 cosmetic that's now discontinued. And that was the end of DarkScape. Or was it? To the surprise of many, DarkScape made a reappearance on the 2018 RuneScape survey. Under combat updates, players could parse through the options and check any item that they were interested in seeing in-game. Seasonal DarkScape was listed among 12 other potential updates. So how did it fare? Well, it ranked close to the bottom with a score of around 3.2 out of 5, but it wasn't all bad news. Here's what the mods had to say in the 2018 survey results livestream.
You can also see how the people voted on each of these. So Seasonal DarkScape, more than any of the other options on this one, for example, had a huge proportion of 5s, so really wanted it, but also had a huge proportion of 1s, please don't spend time working on this. Yeah. So there is a passionate niche, and that should also...
So basically, the dedicated DarkScape fanbase wanted these servers back more than anything, but other players had no interest at all. It wasn't exactly topping the interest list, but this survey did prove that there's a niche for DarkScape players who desperately want to see it return. Old School's Deadman Mode has proved that player count aside, there's a big appetite for PvP game mode streams, YouTube content, and in-person events. Many of Old School's highest ever livestream viewer counts were from people tuning in to watch the Deadman Final Hour. Not only that, but PvP events have been a huge marketing tool for Jagex. The excitement and suspense of Deadman has been extremely successful in not only attracting new players to the PvP game modes, but to the main game as well. So what does the future hold for PvP game modes in RuneScape? At least in the case of DarkScape, we can say that it's still definitely on the minds of the JMods. At the time of recording this video, a JMod replied to a post in the official DarkScape subreddit within the last year, indicating that they were still continuing to fight for the return of DarkScape. It's not a lot to cling on to, but it is perhaps a nugget of hope for the hardcore fans out there. I think if DarkScape will ever return, it'll require a larger marketing budget, more development time, and some big events to generate hype around it. Design-wise, I actually think that DarkScape has the potential to be even bigger than Old School's Deadman. Whereas Deadman Mode punishes players for dying by costing them their items and experience, DarkScape's deaths forego the XP losses, which is something that's well known to drive players to quit Deadman. By taking the best elements from each game mode, Jagex could assemble a PvP server that scratches the itch of hardcore fans, but is also fun for casual players. Imagine a server where dying doesn't set you back dozens of hours, XP rates are always accelerated, PvP is balanced, normally mundane activities are profitable but also saturated with risk, and most importantly, bugs get fixed. But what do you think? Would you try out DarkScape if it returned? Would you watch content about the game mode? Let me know why or why not. If you made it this far, consider leaving a like and a sub, and if you like PvP content, check out this video about Ultimate Iron Man getting PK'd for billions in items.